How did you pick Dave's? Or was it, you don't have to give me other brands, but were you deep in due diligence with other brands, or was it only Dave's?
A mix of that. When I was looking at what was next, I knew I wanted to get into a chicken brand. I didn't know what that brand was going to be. I can tell you that we looked at a lot of them, but Dave's honestly kind of just fell into our lap. It was one of those things where we were out there looking. The recruiter that was recruiting for a VP of development position, someone that I knew that was a VP of development for a brand, got recruited by a recruiter for Dave's, and he's like, "Hey, you should check this brand out." And I'm like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Well, there's Dave's in California. Ironically, my wife and I were actually going out there for a trip in 2 weeks." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'll look at it," but really not looking for anything because we had just entered Indiana for Dunkin. So our hands were kind of full at that point. So as we kind of went through it, I had the food, and the one thing I knew is that the food had to travel well. And that was kind of my only requirement. It'd be really good food, but it had to travel well. And it hit that right off the bat. So then we started our due diligence. I've in the past, we've gotten into brands that just don't have leadership that knows the franchise world, that's done it before. And honestly, at this point, we're not looking to do that again. Right? We're not looking to not help. I shouldn't say. We're not looking to figure out what direction the brand is going as the leadership kind of figures it out. Right? With Dave's, you've had leadership that has done it before multiple times. So they knew what the franchise world was about. They knew what the franchisee interaction, gives and takes, and things were about. And that's kind of how it all played into, I guess, got put into effect. And initially we signed a 5-store deal, then went to a 10-store deal, then went to a 21-store deal, and now we're up to I think a 28-store deal with them. And we've got 6 open, 6, I'd say 3 under construction, 3 in architecture. So it's one of those things where we like it. I'd rather grow with them than figure out another brand or something to bring it into the fold.
So how many locations did they have open when you bought it?
1. So
That's
Dave's
what
had
I
1
thought you said.
location
That's
open.
one.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted just to be clear of that. So it wasn't like a lot of people know about Dave's today, but back then, and still a lot of people probably don't know about Dave's compared to Dunkin', but
Right.
They didn't have branding. So, I mean, they had good branding, I'm assuming, but you coming from the Dunkin' world knew what great branding and longevity was like. How important was the future of their brand and branding to you as you were in due diligence with them?
Oh, it was everything. I mean, when I got introduced into the Dave's world, it was something completely different, right? It was like they were just starting the franchise world. The new leadership had been in effect for maybe 2 or 3 months, but I met Bill in Vegas at Restaurant Finance, and he told me the vision. He told me I was going to lay out. He told me what he was going to try to do, and he did it to his credit. He brought in the right people. He put it all into place. I mean, I still remember when I signed up with the 1 location, Bill had just started, and I go, "Hey, can I have the logo?" And it was like one of those Dropbox logo files, right? That's how new they were. And within within a year, he had entire team in place. They obviously went into a huge loss because they were bringing in VPs of construction, VPs of COO, all this kind of stuff, and he ate that cost up front. Now, because he's done it before, he realized how important it was. If I would have went into another brand that had 1 location with leadership that's never done it before, we'd be in a different spot right now where if we got to 200 locations as fast as Dave has, none of the infrastructure would be in place. And, we were that was very important to me because I've been a part of things where they've kind of fallen apart just because the brand didn't stay ahead of things. So 1 location's not, I mean, I still wouldn't say, "Hey, go do it." I mean, it was one of those things where sometimes you get lucky, and we ended up a little lucky here.
But that's why you didn't go all in. You bought enough to test it out.
Right.
And then,
Right.
like you said, within a year, he'd put into place what he kind of told you he was going to.
Yeah.
And so there's trust that was built there. You ever tempted to go outside of food? Because a lot of people that listen to the podcast, they're a lot of consultants, brokers, service-based people, health, fitness, and a lot of that's my world. I'm not into food. That's why I love having smart people like you on the podcast, because we could learn a lot. Have you ever been tempted to go outside of food?
I have, and we flirted with it a bit. I think we're in the Tide world. It's like even going from like fast casual to like full service. It's a different person. It's a different operation. It's a different world. If I went from my QSR fast casual world to non-food, it's a different person. It's a different world. And for me to continuously replicate that as a speed we're growing with the Dunkins and the Daves, I think would be a lot right now, unless you really had a key person. And the Tide Road will slowly grow, maybe a unit a year or something along those lines. We did it back in the day. I've taken a couple swings and misses. And right now I'd say I'm focused solely on food all the way through. So I've looked at it. I know people have made a lot of money doing it, but it's just not something that we've really looked into much lately.
So we think about if you weren't from food and you were from, service-based or other retail, and then food sounded interesting. Because you go down to multi-unit and you see all these cool new food concepts, and you see, like you fly into Vegas when and multi-units going on, and a lot of big food guys are in there, and there's a lot of private jets on the tarmac. So there's a lot of money there, and they're not the franchisors jets. They're franchisees sitting there on the tarmac. So there's a lot of money. So I know that there are people that are outside of food that are interested in food, but they're scared to get into it because it's unfamiliar. What are the reasons to be scared about going from retailer service into food? And what are the reasons not to be afraid of that?
There's a lot of reasons to be scared. There's a lot of reasons not to be scared. I think right now, if I start with the negatives is that back in the day, the last 10 years, $1 million was a really good restaurant. You did $1 million AUV, you were making good money, you were doing it all. Today, with the way construction costs are, with the way rents are, with the way talent is, the cost of those three, $1 million is no longer enough. You've got to be close to that $1.5 million, $1.75 number. So, and that can't be your top 25% restaurant. That's got to be your entire portfolio. It's got to be at that number. You've got a bunch of restaurants that have closed down recently. Even on those, if they were at $35 a foot with them, they're asking for $50 with the new tenant. And you're competing against some pretty big names as you're growing. You're competing against the Cavas, the Street Greens, and the Chipotles. And as a franchisee, it's hard to compete against them unless you can really sell the landlord on you. I can tell you, I'm maybe 10% ever beating him out. And I don't blame him, right? If I was a landlord and I got a signature from Cava versus me, I'm probably taking Cava, right? So it's one of those things where you've got to be smart, you've got to be quick, and when you want something, you go get it. It's not, hey, I'll worry about that tomorrow. It's, hey, you want to meet in 30 minutes in the city? I'll be there, right? It's one of those things where you've got to react right away to these deals. But conversely, I feel like in general, there's more money getting made in food, in my opinion, than anywhere else if you can figure out the right brands and the right structure. It's a 7-year game to me. Get through the first 7 years and you'll be happy the rest of your life. But that 7-year number is get that initial debt load paid off. And, then don't relever it. Because if you start relevering things, then you're just, the way rates are and everything. Be very focused on the bottom line those first 7 years, and then get rid of that debt load, get some free cash flow, and then you can really explode the growth. You try to do both together, it's very doable, but it's just one of those things where you've got to be a little more cautious. There's a little more give and take.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.